Pro Baseball Today on a Sunday. It's always the place to be on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie writes out along with Craig Mish. We got you for 2 hours to get you updated on what you might have missed and certainly what you want to look forward to. It's May 10th, about a month and a half down. The weather's starting to heat up, and so are the topics here, Craig. Good to be with you on this Sunday.
Yeah, most importantly, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Yes. I know a special day, not just around the world, but around baseball as well, as we celebrate. To all of the mothers out there, certainly, and wives, happy Mother's Day to everyone today.
Now, Craig, let me ask you this. Do the pink bats come around Major League Baseball today, or do the blue bats come out on Father's Day? Big day in baseball today for that? I'd like to see it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You'll get that today. It should be a fun evening around the league, too, as you saw already. You saw some of the pink bats out. But, yeah, the guys are using that today. And you're right, Donnie. In June, it's the blue gear.
Absolutely. We got some hot topics to get to, Craig. But if we just look around Major League Baseball, is it a surprise there? Because I always like the week to week to see, gauge those feelings. The AL East. Remember, Craig, the first couple shows we did? Hey, no chance the Rays have any chance of competing here in the AL East. They're tied with the New York Yankees right now. You got two 27-win teams in the National League. So what would you say, Craig? Of course one of those teams are the Dodgers. It's not. The Cubs on fire, 27-13. The Braves at 27-13. Then there's those Dodgers at 24-15 here. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about today, Craig, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And look, let's give love to some other teams, too. You mentioned the Cubs. The Royals are starting to play really good baseball as well. We left them for dead a couple of weeks ago, and here they come again. And so it just goes to show you teams usually find their water. And I think it's also fair. It's fair to say that it's no longer early in baseball anymore. Once you get to this stage of the season, and in a couple of weeks when we do our Memorial Day show, we'll have a full picture, really, as to how teams feel about their clubs.
And by the way, everybody knows I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan. Alec Boehm having a tough offseason, sat down for a couple games, comes back with a vengeance yesterday. We'll get to that and more here, but some topics that you need to know. And for me, being a Philadelphia Phillies fan, growing up in the 80s and the 1990s, it was always, how can you take down those Atlanta Braves here? Well, how about this? Rest in peace, the legendary Hall of Fame manager, Bobby Cox here, one of the best to ever do it, one of those true old salts in Major League Baseball, which means you had a problem with an umpire, he was coming to that dugout, and he was going to cover for his players. Nobody did it like Bobby Cox. And by the way, it's amazing that they only picked up, talking about the Atlanta Braves, one world championship, because every single year, Craig, it felt like they were the best team in baseball in the regular season, perennial contenders, always in the playoffs, and finally got over the hump, at least that one time here. But Bobby Cox, one of the best and one of the most colorful to ever do it.
Yeah, and because the Braves played the Marlins quite a bit, I was able to interact with Cox over the course of his career and have a chance to interview him along with the other reporters, as you normally do during the day. And this guy was just as good with the reporters as he was a manager. He really got it. As you said, he was sort of an old school guy, led the Braves to a ton of success. And I was really happy to see a few years ago him get into the National Baseball Hall of Fame before he passed away. So an all-time manager, and certainly you can see on social media when you get this kind of response of former players coming out and saying that he was like my second dad and what an amazing guy he was. I think it goes without saying that we lost a true legend yesterday. But yes, condolences to the Bobby Cox and Atlanta Braves family. Truly, as Donnie would say, one of a kind.
Absolutely here. And also understand this. He was a Major League Baseball player, 2 years with the New York Yankees here. But the one thing even I missed growing up, I was born in the late 1970s. I actually didn't know till I went to his bio today, Craig. The Atlanta Braves, he was the manager from 78 to 81. And then again in 1990, which again, I always remember the 1990 and on Braves. They were fantastic. All those pitchers, Baby Avery on the mound with Maddox and Schmaltz and all those guys. But I actually had no idea, Craig. He was a manager, then came back to the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a GM of the Braves, too, as well. Yeah, like he actually ran the organization and then ended up coming down. And remember, one of his most trusted advisors through the years, I also got to know here in South Florida, Freddie Gonzalez. Remember him, Donnie? Yes, he ended up spending some time in Atlanta as well. And then Brian Snitker and Walt Weiss. And you can kind of tell the Braves have always sort of tried to emulate that kind of manager. The Braves haven't really got caught up in this new school wave of analytics. They've kind of been running things the same way for 3 decades. And yeah, it just will be hard to replicate this kind of deal with just the way that we're headed in baseball, with so many of these teams almost fully turning over to analytics at this point. But Cox was definitely not one of those guys.
I always appreciate it too. Like, always took enjoy where you sat down, you talked to him, you see the interviews, and also coming back to the Atlanta Braves one last time to throw out that first pitch. And again, gets in the fake argument. The umpire, they throw him out. It was all in good time. So he always understood where he stood there. And the fans, certainly in Atlanta, fantastic manager overall, passes away, and rightfully so, one of those true baseball guys. Let's get into some topics, Craig, because we look at injuries in the Major League Baseball season, which came up before the season even started. The WBC, Scooble's like, you know what? I'm going to do right by my team here. I'm not going to pitch in the WBC. I want to make sure I'm healthy here for the Detroit Tigers. And you want to talk about a blow to your starting staff. 2 to 3 months down for Tarek Skubal. Loose bodies in that elbow. Now, understanding this, Craig, we're led to believe that the surgery went well and he should be back this season. But anytime you have one of the best, if not the best pitchers in Major League Baseball down for a couple months, certainly not going to help you out. The Tigers maybe avoided disaster, but still going to be without their young gun here for a couple months.
Yeah, I'm going to take anything that I hear from this point forward after you have surgery on your throwing elbow, with all due respect, with a grain of salt. I mean, this is not going to be a week's injury. This is going to be a month's injury. And by the way, Donnie, it is really complicated. This is one of the more complicated situations from the player's perspective and for the team's perspective. And naturally, Skubal wants to win for the Tigers. He wants to get them into the postseason, and I'm sure that he wants to win the World Series. But he also, and so does Scott Boras, they want to break the bank as far as being the highest paid pitcher of all time in the offseason, and there's a chance he can do that. So I don't know how this plays out. There's also the trade factor involved here. You look back at Ohtani a few years ago with the Angels, what they could have gotten. They did nothing. What will the Tigers do if they're not in it? Do they hold him for a draft pick? It wouldn't seem like that is smart. I guess the good news, Donnie, with this is we can wait a couple of months to start talking about it. The other part of this is that there's no doubt from our perspective here at SportsGrid is that, Donnie, there's going to be a new Cy Young Award winner in the American League this year for the first time in a couple of years. So Skubal will be out as far as that goes. I hope he's okay, and I hope he's fine. But let's just say what it is at this point. We literally have no idea if he will have any positive impact the remainder of the season with the Tigers. We simply do not know.
Exactly. And sometimes you're looking, okay, I mean, the team is built very solidly here in Detroit, but this was the year we were supposed to take maybe that next step, and they go out, they spend money on Framber Valdez, that 1-2 punch once you get to the playoffs. But as we pointed out, not going to be there in the summer if he can be healthy enough to be there for, August and September. And also, Craig points out as well, it's a great point. There is a lot of money on that contract here where if you don't think the agent as well as the team and the player themselves are trying to jockey for what's best for my client, what's best for this team, that's certainly going to take place. But understand this, in Major League Baseball, giving money to power pitchers here, it can work out fantastic in your favor, or it could be a disaster and an albatross because you look at other pitchers around the IL here, Skubal, Crochet, Schwellenbach, Green, Brown. Like, these just aren't, hey, run-of-the-mill guys, fourth and fifth starters. You're talking about big-name starters, bullpen guys, and closers on this list that are big-money guys that you're just hoping will be healthy. But when you're throwing 100 miles an hour, Craig, things break down.
Yeah, it does. Taj Bradley's another one who was having a really good year for the Twins, I believe, was just put on the injured list too yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, that's a heck of a list here with the top there. Skubal, Crochet, Green. I see Joe Ryan on that list. I believe he just came back. Yeah. Josh Hader has not pitched this year. Edwin Diaz has barely pitched this year. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, Donnie, I mean, it's funny that you said that, like, signing a long-term deal can work out. I mean, like, no offense to me or you, like, I'd like to see evidence of that. It seems like none of these deals are working out for, like, any of these pitchers. It seems like it works out for a year or two, and then all of a sudden it just goes away. So I'm not saying that players don't deserve to get long-term contracts, but, man, investing in a pitcher, Donnie, like, how do you win that battle? I don't know. It's tough.
Exactly. You take the outfielder or the infielder, it's like, okay, we're just looking at, father time, and he should be good all throughout his 30s. Like, a pitcher can be powerful, and it's like, like Harvey in the Mets. This guy is a can't-miss prospect. He's going to be around for a decade here, and broke down and seemingly felt like it was overnight. Pitchers going 5, 6, 7 years with that high arm velocity, man. Sometimes it just doesn't work out in your favor. In the NFL, it's like, hey, don't pay a running back a lot. He's going to get into a lot of collisions on a week-to-week basis. Well, same thing with Major League Baseball pitchers. A lot of money on the table. And Skubal, as we pointed out, heading into the WBC, understood the game where, hey, if I'm healthy this year, I'm going to make so much money, it's not going to matter anymore. And now it's like, hey, am I going to be healthy enough to make that money now? More hot topics coming your way. Pro Baseball Today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. You never want to see injuries in Major League Baseball, but it's going to happen from time to time. Your favorite team, your favorite player, you just hope it doesn't happen, or at least it's not long-term. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Craig Misher talking baseball on a Sunday on the SportsGrid Network. And how about this one? Typically, Craig, we hear like, hey, came out for warm-ups or third inning, second pitch of the inning. Ooh, something cramped up, whether it's a hamstring, an ankle injury, or an arm injury, and out of the game they go. How about Matthew Boyd of the Chicago Cubs, Craig? Take a look at this tweet from Yahoo Sports. Matthew Boyd will undergo surgery on a left meniscus following an injury that occurred when sitting down to play with his children here. Man, look, I'm almost close to 50 years old. Yeah, I get injured getting out of bed. A professional baseball player goes down to pick up his kid, ends up with a meniscus injury, Craig. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, it happens. There's always going to be these freak injuries in sports, Donnie, over the course of a season, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, pickleball. It doesn't matter. Guys get hurt. It's strange. Unfortunately for the Cubs, they'll miss him for an extended period of time. It sounds like 4 to 6 weeks. I guess if there is any silver lining, Donnie, is it fair to say that if any team can afford an injury right now, it would be the Cubs? Yeah. They're playing out of their worlds, it's crazy how good they are this season. So Cubs have banked so many April and May wins to this point. I think they can spend a few weeks just getting Matthew Boyd off the floor and getting healthy. I think they'll be okay.
Now look at the kids there. Looks like you can have a couple fun. Now also, Craig, I am a conspiracy theorist guy. And if we just a little background here, I always loved Jeff Kent, who was a player for the San Francisco Giants, who loved to ride motorcycles. And they said, look, in this contract, we can void this and not pay you if you get hurt riding that motorcycle. Well, Jeff Kent showed up one day. I don't think it was spring training, maybe, or even early in the season. Ouch, my wrist hurts. What happened, Jeff? Washing my truck, I fell off and I broke my wrist. Well, turned out that he didn't break his wrist falling off his truck. It was a motorcycle. Any thoughts, Craig, that this guy was maybe playing a little bit of hoops or not doing what he was supposed to do and said, you know what? I heard it playing with my kids. Come on now, feed my conspiracies here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not being there and having a clue would be hard for me to comment on that. But yeah, I mean, you never know, Donnie, with this stuff. And I mean, it's today is Sunday. I guess check back with me Wednesday, Thursday, because by that time, I'm guessing the reporters will have it figured out.
It figured
Donnie,
out.
by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, maybe what do you think? Do you think maybe he was on a boat? Maybe.
Oh,
could that have been the deal?
Man, stirring it up.
Is there
Like
video?
Lake Michigan out there? Was it windy enough? You know what I mean? You never know. By the way, Craig is an insider. Maybe he's gone. Maybe he has some information we don't know that he can break a little bit later. But before we do that, breaking stuff and hurting stuff, it's the Houston Astros. Craig, for almost a decade, it's like, yeah, the Astros are going to be in the playoffs. They're going to fight for a World Series. Did they bang on trash cans? Did they not? Well, they were world champions. They weren't taking that piece of metal away from them, as the commissioner likes to say. But Carlos Correa, done for the season. Well, at least right now, the Astros technically aren't in last place out there in the West. But this is an organization that was hanging on by a thread, Craig, and those threads are breaking right now.
Yeah, it's probably over for them this year, and I thought it was even weeks ago. So, I mean, look, Correa was a piece of a puzzle for them, and a piece that could be filled in if they wanted to. But I get the sense that the Astros are going to take a deeper look at this, Donnie, and not say, let's duct tape it. I think they may end up just pulling the duct tape off. As far as Correa's career is concerned, it's been a fantastic one. I understand that a lot of fans are still upset about the trash cans and everything like that. But, I mean, they got caught. I think other teams were doing it. For the Yankees, I guess their fans, they're more upset than anyone else. But for me, I really didn't even care all that much about it. For Correa's career, it goes without saying that he had some medical red flags prior to potentially signing with the Giants and even the Mets. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but his future, Donnie, even at a very young age, I think we probably would both have to agree, is it first base? Is it designated hitter? You know, they already moved him from shortstop to third, and he tinkered back with a little short again, and he was an elite infielder. But I think it is fair to ask at this point if Correa's best defensive days are done, maybe a position switch coming as well. I still think he'll play, and I still think he'll hit for the remainder of his career, but he's had these lower ankle and leg issues now for a while. So he was always good to me, by the way. So I'm sad to see this happen, but naturally, hopefully he'll get back on the field next year.
Now, that player, of course, as Craig said, not playing this year. You know who's coming back into the fold? Oh, yeah, another superstar for those Dodgers. I guess you could say they're struggling with only 24 wins. I don't know. What do we anticipate? Them not losing a Major League Baseball game this year. But Mookie Betts, oblique injury expected, Craig, to come back tomorrow back into that lineup for the Dodgers.
Yeah, remember when we were talking last week? Oh, the Dodgers, they're fine. They'll get Mookie Betts sometime in June or July. All of a sudden, they're not hitting. Who's coming back? Mookie Betts. This is what teams do. So, look, naturally, he's a major piece of this Dodgers lineup. He's gotten himself a couple of months off. I would suspect that he will be a little bit of a lightning rod for this team and get them going offensively. And I don't know that he's one of the very best players in baseball anymore, but he is a key piece to that team. So that's certainly really good news for them. We saw them get Blake Snell, although uneven results. Yep. He came back yesterday too. Dodgers are just playing for the second half of the season, but it does feel like now, Donnie, that they're not playing their best baseball. Maybe they needed to inject some more life into the team. So Snell comes back, and I think Betts, as we'll see on Monday.
Yeah, 4-6 in the last 10 games here. Take a look at 24-15. A game up on those San Diego Padres. We'll keep an eye on Mookie Betts, who, as the tweet said, expected to be back tomorrow. Trade season, not yet Major League Baseball, is it? How about the San Francisco Giants? Let's hear what Buster Posey has to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the confidence that we have in Jesus Rodriguez and Daniel Susac, and just the strides that we feel like as an organization they've made defensively. Both of them swinging the bat well, and as you noted, not necessarily only Patty, who's been off to a slow start offensively this year, but just as a whole, trying to find ways to get more runs on the board.
How did Bailey take the news when you guys kind of told him?
He was a pro. I mean, he was a pro this whole last week, with not even starting like he normally does, and just a pro about it.
When you have a lineup, then that can absolutely mash, Craig. It's okay to be like, okay, we'll have a really good defensive catcher and it can work out. Maldonado so many years it felt like with the Houston Astros. But when you can't hit, you need every bat you need here. So Bailey on the move now. Buster said it. Trying to get some bats into this lineup here.
We're way too early for any assessment on the Buster Posey era in San Francisco, but thus far it has not looked great. I think that is fair to say. I don't think it has anything to do with the manager. It just has to do with the roster construction that, make no mistake about it, Donnie, Buster Posey's very heavily involved. This does not always work for a player with very little front office experience now being asked to run baseball operations. I'm still going to, be a half full guy on Buster Posey, but I would say this year a really bad check mark on his report card.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of love out there and a lot of respect just because of who he is, but that runs out quick when you have bad seasons that you put together, and we'll find out in San Francisco. Fun times on PBT. We'll be right back. Over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like that.
To test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, okay. You don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number one, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. By the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that it's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Players that are hot in Major League Baseball, we got you covered on pro baseball today right here on the Sports Grid Network. It's Sonny Rightside and it's Craig Mish here. And you take a look and say, well, typically if a player is hot at the plate, it's probably benefiting his team as well. The Atlanta Braves are sitting right now, Major League Baseball tied with 27 wins along with the Chicago Cubs as the best in the majors. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games. But how about this? A plus 82 run differential. And if we take a look at one of their best players, yeah, it's Matt Olson. Do you remember when the Atlanta Braves first acquired him? Let's see how this works out. And then you take a look at his 2023 season, smacked 54 home runs with a weighted on base percentage of .413. He could never get back to it. He's dipped a little bit in the past couple years. Oh, yeah? Take a look at this year. 13 bombs already, 35 runs scored, 35 RBI, and a weighted on base percentage of .433. It's hammer time down in the Big A there, Craig.
Yeah, Donnie, I think this is a real challenger for the National League MVP. I think this is legitimate here. I mean, look, I personally would give it to Ohtani, as I've talked about every year. He pitches and hits, that's it. He's the MVP for me, because when he's done, we're never going to see this ever again. But that being said, I guess maybe in the prediction market space, if you're looking somebody to finish second or finish third, I definitely think he is well within play. 13 home runs, as you mentioned, an OPS over 1,000. This could be a potential year like we saw 2 years ago, and it just goes to show you that every player has different trajectories over his career. Credit to him. Whatever went wrong for him last season is going right now. The Braves are playing good baseball. They'll get Acuna back, I believe, next week too. And Strider came back, and maybe that's the biggest story of all for the Braves this week, Donnie. I don't know if you saw any of that start yesterday, but he was like throwing 97 again. I mean, you want to take a flyer on somebody to win the Cy Young or moving forward? I'll tell you, Strider looked like Strider of a few years ago yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of injuries there. Sometimes like, okay, I missed a little bit of the season, but it looks like every really good pitcher is missing some of the season this year, and you can jump in a little bit late and get that value here. And how about those New York Yankees battling with the Tampa Bay Rays in the AL East? One of those guys that's heating up in that lineup, it's Cody Bellinger of the New York Yankees. You date back to 2019 here with the Dodgers, 47 home runs and 115 RBI, which meant he had a weighted on base percentage, Craig, of .415. So, okay, a little bit down the past couple years, but this season, Craig, 5 home runs, 28 RBI, 289 batting average, but more importantly, that weighted on base percentage, again, high at a 389. Bellinger in the Bronx here, that left-handed bat. You can get some power to protect Aaron Judge. You're going to do some damage, and Bellinger's starting to do that here with the Yanks.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for Cody Bellinger. If you think about it, Donnie, that year that he had where he was, arguably the very best hitter in all of baseball, he didn't come close to repeating it. And I feel like every contract he gets moving forward, people will always point to what he didn't do as opposed to what he did do. And so there's always that little fear. Do we give him a 6-year deal? Do we give him a 5-year deal? He's having problems getting a multi-year deal because people just don't trust him. But what it is, Donnie, is simply put, I don't know how he would perform outside of the Bronx, but with that short portion right, he was meant to play there. So as long as they just keep doing these 1-year, 2-year deals and Cody is healthy, he will be very happy getting paid his $20-30 million a year. But as an example, could you see like a Toronto or a Baltimore or some other team taking a shot on him, Donnie? I don't think so. Those teams could have gotten him the last few years, and they chose not to. Just a good fit for that park.
Yeah, you heard Aaron Judge over the offseason, like, hey, what are we waiting for? Get this guy Bellinger signed up, and you're right about it. It's a perfect fit in the Bronx, short porch out there in right field, and he could do some damage and certainly being protected by other good hitters in that lineup. Love to see it there. Bellinger having a pretty good season. How about the big Miz? We were worried, Craig. Oh, no, hamstring injury. That could derail part of the season. And he comes back into New York Yankees, absolutely filthy with 11 strikeouts here. And on the season, an xFIP of 242, one of the premier strikeout pitchers in Major League Baseball. Look at those last 3 starts, Craig. 156 ERA over 17 1/3 innings pitched. Love to see it from the big Miz.
Yeah, he's great, but I'm worried, I just don't know, Donnie, that it's sustainable to be throwing 103 miles an hour, man. I don't know. We glorify it. We love it. We talk about it so much, but how can this possibly be sustainable over a long-term period? And the Miz is not 6'7" either, I don't know. It's more of maybe like a dynasty fantasy question or just like what the future holds. And certainly I hope he's able to just do this and do this for a long period. But when I see a kid throwing a 102 and 103, I just wonder to myself, since no one's ever done that, what's the track record for surviving doing that? So I guess this is his thing. I can't deny the stats. He's one of the very best pitchers in baseball, but I'm just concerned that this kid can hold up doing this long term. I just am.
You know what's interesting, Craig, too, when you equate these power pitchers, right? And use another sport, like Usain Bolt, one of the fastest men on the planet. He wasn't sprinting every fifth day as fast as he possibly could because that would damage his muscle gears. You take a look at like a power lifter. Is he using his max every fifth day? Like, no, you build up to that. But a pitcher, 100 times a game, let's just say throws 70 fastballs. They're all max velocity at that point every fifth day. It's hard to hold up here. And sometimes you get caught up with some of those injuries where even though it's not even a shoulder injury, it's a hamstring, some things can derail because they're finely tuned athletes here. We'll get the more hot players and also turn into some hot teams in this marketplace. It's a Sunday. It's baseball. It's the SportsGrid Network. It's the only place to be. Donnie and Craig, we'll be right back. Not a lot expected out of those Nationals here in the 2026 season, and some might have thought, just like we talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, no chance for them to actually compete in this division. Now, granted, the Atlanta Braves are in this division. It's going to be tough to compete with that, with how good they're playing. But did you know, people, second place right now in that division? It's the Washington Nationals. Getting some big starts out of young players? Absolutely. Take a look at Foster Griffin here. 4-1 on the season, a 2.12 ERA, 42 Ks, and a whip of 1.03. But, Craig, when you start to say, well, eventually they'll get a book on the kid, not so fast. His last 3 starts, 0.45 ERA, 20 Ks over his past 20 innings here. Picking up some good stats here for Foster Griffin.
Yeah, and devastating against left-handed batters. He came back from overseas throwing 7 or 8 different pitches, Donnie. I saw him in person play in the Futures game in 2014. I saw him play as a member of the Kansas City Royals in their organization, and he was a first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he was going to be a star. It didn't work out. He's reinvented himself. I was at the game that he pitched against Miami this weekend. I think he maxed out at 92 miles an hour. We talk about Mizorowski. This is the opposite. Like, you would never send Foster Griffin to a drive line, Donnie, you know? Like he's just going to, throw it up here and throw it down there and then throw it here. I think I got all the quadrants of my box here. Yeah, that's all he does. 2 different changeups he throws. He throws one from here and one from here. So, look, credit to the Nationals for signing him. I do question as to whether or not 3-4 years from now this can work. But there are pitchers like this that have succeeded, Donnie. A name that, came up to me this weekend was, I'm sure you remember, is Marco Gonzalez. Remember him? He pitched with the Cardinals, and then he pitched with Seattle for a number. And every year you were just kind of like, oh, Marco Gonzalez is going to make 30 starts. He's going to win as many as he loses. His ERA is going to be in the high threes, and he's going to get 150, 160 innings. I mean, Foster Griffin's going to have a fantastic next 3 or 4 years, I think, of his career, whether it's with Washington or someone else. But yes, I was very impressed with how well he pitched. I believe he also struck out 9, if I'm not mistaken, and that was a career high for him on Friday.
Dipping into getting some of those young starters here. Let's see what Washington can do. And certainly with this season, are they wild card eligible? Will they continue over the season? And what their front office might help them if they need a bat or a pitcher or two down the stretch here. Those hot players flip over to the hot teams here, Craig. If I gave you trivia, like, you know what? We're in the month of September. Can you believe the Chicago Cubs have 2 separate 9-game win streaks? That's an unbelievable season. What if I then tell you, Craig, we're sitting here on May the 10th. They've won 9 games 2 separate times here in a row already on this season. 27-13. I thought the Cubs would be the best team in this division to start the season. Interesting start to the season, but now you see they're playing some of their best baseball right now. Winning streaking, should I say, for those Cubbies.
Yeah, they derailed the Reds, who I liked so much this past week.
Yeah.
It feels like they beat them 10 times this week. I don't know. But yeah, the Cubs are playing their best baseball, obviously, of the season. They seem like a formidable team. They're getting the pitching. Of course, the hitting is there, too. And then, Donnie, what's really happened for them, which is, I think, interesting, is that they took a flyer, and he's come through in Michael Conforto. You know, they're bringing, like, he doesn't play every day, but they've been bringing him off the bench, and he comes in and he gets a game-winning hit. So maybe some magic is in the air at Wrigley. That's where they've been playing their best baseball this season. At this point, it would be foolish to bet against them. They certainly seem like they'll make the postseason. How far they go will be dependent on what they do at the trade deadline coming up in a couple of months. As we know, teams are good, but other teams like the Dodgers and the Padres and the Yankees, they're going to get better at that deadline. Cubs are probably going to be in that same spot.
By the way, again, every single team in that Central Division is above 500 here. Great baseball being played, and the leaders in the clubhouse right now, the Chicago Cubs, and another team right behind them, Craig, the St. Louis Cardinals, who we thought would probably be in the basement, at least this early in the season and the end of the season, currently sitting in second place at 23-16. But let's move it over to the NL East, which we know the Braves right now are the class of that division, up 8 games on the Washington Nationals, and a team that maybe have buried themselves in the month of April, we thought, was the Philadelphia Phillies, playing much better. And also Dandy Don Mattingly calling the pitches, calling the hitters, calling the plate here. Phillies look a little bit better right now, even though yesterday you had Alec Boehm with a great game and you left the game here with Bryce Harper with the migraine. Better baseball in Philadelphia, not just getting booed on a day-to-day basis here, Craig.
Yeah, I think Philadelphia looks now exactly how we thought they were. They're going to have to catch up a little bit on the wins and losses category just because they had such a tough April. The one alteration, unfortunately, that I think, Donnie, they're going to have to do is they're going to have to probably pitch somebody other than Andrew Painter at this point. I think... I mean, I don't know how much runway they want to give this kid, and I know that he's had a bunch of time in the minor leagues, but it seems to me that immediately out there after Donnie, I mean, you're watching the games after 2-3 innings, it's almost like a loss right now for them. So they're going to have to get that figured out. You can't have a guy pitching 2-3 innings and giving up 5-6 runs every 5 days. So my guess is they'll give him a couple more opportunities, and then they're going to have to pivot, maybe go to a bullpen day or something like that. That's the only thing I see missing from Philadelphia right now is that back end of the rotation. And naturally, when you trade Ranger Suarez and you fill in with back end guys and you're just getting Wheeler back, you know, like these things are going to happen. But I think Dombrowski will get that figured out.
He should be able to do it and also understand this from a Major League Baseball perspective. You have to have some of those guys that aren't $30 million guys stepping up and saying, you know what, we're going to fill in our payroll here with some good young talent so we don't have to go out and sign another $25 million a year pitcher. But the one thing that you can't have, and this is why Taijuan Walker's not in Philadelphia anymore. It's like, okay, it makes $18, $19 million a year. Just give us a game where we can be in it. 2 to 3 runs, quality start. Thank you. Don't need to be dominant. And it was so bad that it's like, okay, after 3 innings, we're done. Well, if you watch that previous game, and again, he's had some bad starts against the A's, turn the TV on, this game's over, 6, 7, 8-0 already, and we're only in the 3rd or the 4th inning. That can't happen here. Just be competitive is all you're asking for. And also, you know, Topper was in Philadelphia, Rob Thompson. He leaves, they play the teams that you're supposed to beat, and all of a sudden you snap the finger and they start pitching again, and Bryce Harper's starting to hit the baseball. It's a shame he sort of got that, hey, you know what? Could you just kept me around for another week and a half to see if it works? But the Phillies had to do something, and Don Mattingly is the manager. They're playing better baseball, and away they go. Now, a team we just talked about here, Craig, the Chicago Cubs, who does lead the Central Division at 27-13, Then right behind them, it's those St. Louis Cardinals here, 7-3 in their last 10 games. But how about this? If you look at the 4 teams in that division with run differential, plus 50 for the Cubs, plus 53 for the Brewers, plus 32 here for the Pittsburgh Pirates, plus 4 for the Cardinals, but yet they still got 23 wins on the season here. Pretty impressive, threading that needle right now.
Yeah, I think everybody should acknowledge that this is one of the biggest surprises in baseball this season. But Donnie, you alluded to the key point. Their run differential is plus 4. Look, in the end, is it possible that the Cardinals win 80 games? I mean, at this point, you have to start exploring that. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and I do think that they're going to trade off anybody that they can at the deadline. But despite what the front office sort of wants to do, the players, I guess, are saying not so fast. Jordan Walker had that great start, came back to earth a little bit better again. Their bullpen has been great. This Riley O'Brien, it feels like every single time they're in, where'd they find this guy? Every time they're in the ninth inning, this guy like shuts the door and he's pumping 97. So credit to them. They seem to be also competing against the good teams too. It's not just beating up on the bad teams, but their offense is not strong enough where that run differential is going to be superior to some of the other teams. I do still expect, I'm not going to jump off my idea of the Cardinals finishing in last, but maybe they do overachieve, which is what they've done thus far.
Overachieving. You could just say that and open up the dictionary, and they give you a picture right there of the Tampa Bay Rays here. They get their ballpark back, which I was sort of upset with. Love the heat and humidity outdoors at Steinbrenner Stadium down there in Tampa, but moving back indoors, maybe a godsend here. Look at those Rays, 14-4 at home. Tied right now for leaders in the division with the New York Yankees here. They're 25-13. The Yanks are 26-14. 8-2 in their last 10 games. I know they did lose on Saturday. A run differential of only plus 17, but this is what the Rays do. Expect nothing and then say, well, of course the Rays are battling for first place. It's just what they do in the regular season.
Yeah, last year was the first year that they actually took a step back, and I don't think it's any coincidence that they weren't playing games at home. I think that had something to do with it. Shane McClanahan now looks like he's almost all the way back. That's a big add to the rotation. And think about the Rays. Donnie, this offseason, Baltimore calls them and just offers a boatload for Shane Baz. And you thought, what are the Rays doing? This is the best young pitcher. And it worked out for Tampa Bay again. Dangerous to make trades with this team, right? When Tampa Bay make a trade, you kind of know something. So, good for them. Good for their fans. Good to be back in that park. And I think they'll make the playoffs this year. I don't know how far they'll go, and you know that they're going to be limited in terms of funds, but they definitely always seemingly do the right thing.
Rasmussen there, 2.95 ERA. McClanahan, as you talked about, a 2.60 ERA. Take a look at Nick Martinez. 1.71. Then you look at the lineup and say, how can you hit in that dome? Nancy Andy Diaz, a 3.16 average there, and also Chandler Simpson, 3.06 as well. Tampa Bay in first place, just as we predicted. We'll be right back. Over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like
to test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number one, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. And by the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there here talking baseball on a Sunday in early May. No better place to be than the SportsGrid Network. It's Donnie Rightside and Craig Mish here, and still going along now with teams that were hot. How about some of those teams that are not? And by the way, a lot can happen in a week. Maybe last week we'll say, hey, man, look at these Cincinnati Reds. They have a chance to challenge for the division lead. Maybe they can chase down the Chicago Cubs. Then we meet up today on May 10th and say, well, how did the Reds do at least in their last 10 games? I don't know, 2-8 overall, even though they did pick up a win on Saturday. But if you would have told me, Craig, we're sitting here in May, 21-19, they're probably in maybe second place, third place in that division. They're actually in last place right now in the division because everybody is above 500. And even though the Reds are, they're at 21-19, Craig. What happened over this past week and a half here with those Reds?
Yeah, a confluence of events. It seems like the pitching completely went south outside of Chase Burns. It's just, it's been a disaster for them. And it's surprising because they got off to such a nice start. I thought they had a good rotation. So, look, it just may be, Donnie, that they ran into the Cubs. I mean, that certainly is possible, and it's a plausible answer. If the Cubs end up winning 95 games, we'll look back and say that was the time where the Reds struggles is they played the best team in the division. But is that the bigger point that you made is that they're over 500 and they're still in last. So I'll stay on the Reds and think that they could get it turned around. But if you ask me what's going on there, yeah, it's obviously the pitching and the fact that the Cubs shut them down. And Houston, thus far, their pitching, Burrows in particular, did a really good job against them this weekend. But I think the Reds will be okay.
And maybe it is a minor miracle as we take a look at, Craig, because you look at their starters, Chase Burns, 2.11 ERA, exactly where you want the young flamethrower to be. But the rest of the staff, Andrew Abbott, 5.13, Brady Singer, 5.63, Rhett Lauder, 5.40, Nick Lodolo, 6.75. Somebody step up. It might be, as I said, a miracle that they're still over 500. Get some of those pitching back here. Maybe Hunter Green comes back in the equation. Keep Chase Burns up there, and they might be okay. But still being over 500, but being in last place, that shows you how really competitive it has been in that Central Division here. Let's take a look out west. The Dodgers, of course, they're in first place, 24-15. The Padres on their heels at 23-16. And then there's the third place Diamondbacks who are below 500 at 18-20, 3-7 in their last 10 games. Picked up a win on Saturday night. But Craig, run differential, minus 26 right now. You can't play bad baseball through any stretches of a Major League Baseball season and expect to chase down those Los Angeles Dodgers. The D-backs having a struggle, Craig, early this season.
Yeah, the offense has not been what they thought it would be. I think that's pretty evident from watching a lot of these games that they're playing. While the pitching is sort of holding up, you saw they made kind of a signature move. What I mean by that is like a signal, hey, look, we're just going to have to shake things up. They DFA'd, I think, Alec Thomas, who was, a piece for them for many years of playing. So, Carroll has been okay. He hasn't been great. 5 home runs, 260. I think that he'll get things going. In the end, what are the Diamondbacks? They're a team, if they get real hot, Donnie, they finish with 85 wins. And if they don't, they finish with like 79, 80 wins. Like, they're not the best team in the division. They're probably not the second best team. But credit to them, Donnie, they're always competitive. Like they're not going to lose 100, something like that. But I just don't think they're built well enough right now to go very far. And as I said, offensively, they just really, outside of the first 3 guys in the lineup, they're just not hitting.
Yeah, take a look at that graphic, too. It's like, oh, great win, 9-0. That's a lot of offense. Look at the next 4 games, Craig. Shutout against the Pirates, 2 runs against the Pirates, 1 run against the Mets. And actually, they beat the Mets on Saturday. They only scored 2 runs in that one. Offense needs to wake up, no doubt about it here. We'll see. And again, the calling card for the Diamondbacks, always a fun, athletic team mixed in with some power. We'll see if they can get back to those roots. But as we said also, NL West, you better be playing your best baseball if you expect to make a playoff run, because the Dodgers are always going to be up there and improving here. And we'll see how that goes the rest of the way. Now, if we do stay in the West, the San Francisco Giants, there's a lot to talk about. We even opened the show talking about Buster Posey making some changes and some trades early on. We thought that lineup should be able to hit. It's, again, not hitting at this point. Some of their best starters, Logan Webb, now to the IL. Things aren't looking up. And also on top of that, getting booed at home in San Francisco's Vitello is now taking some heat, Craig. Not a good start in San Francisco for all parties involved.
Yeah, you look at the season in particular that Devers is having, and I know that some offense has come lately, but 224, 4 home runs, 16 RBIs. And Donnie, the other point that I want to make with him, and it's like the number that teams look at when they're judging players, is obviously WAR. I mean, Devers right now, Donnie, is on pace to be a -3 WAR player this season. Like, that is unheard of for a player with this kind of contract. It's like a Chris Davis with the Orioles. Remember that, Donnie, when he went through the end of his career where it was like 150 and just striking out 50% of the time? So, you know, I know a lot of finger pointing is going on right now and probably will over the course of the season. Maybe it's even at the manager. I don't think that it has anything to do with it. It's just simply put, you have to slug in the big leagues to win. You have to slug to stay in games. They don't do it. They just don't have players that can hit bombs outside of Devers. And maybe, look, at the end of the year, will Devers have 25, 30 home runs and turn it around completely? Maybe that will be the case, but it's not enough. And it, you know what it also feels like, Donnie? Doesn't it feel to you like a little bit of a Coors from the hitting perspective? Like, you can't pitch in Coors. It feels like you can't hit in San Francisco. Like, since Bonds, since Kent, they just don't have guys that have been able to do it. And until they get that figured out, it doesn't matter who they sign, whether it's Soler or any of the, or bringing Devers or any of these other guys. Someone is going to have to hit 25, 30 home runs consistently for the Giants for them to compete every year. And they still don't have anyone like that.
And again, it always goes back to like Barry Bonds is the most prolific home run hitter we've ever seen and did a lot of damage out there in San Francisco, which is amazing to think about that. And to Craig's point, to double down, it's like, all right, well, pitchers don't want to go to Coors because it's going to hurt their legacy, but they'll take the money. Maybe big-time power hitters don't want to go to San Francisco. But also, like, you have to have numbers that make sense. Craig, runs scored this year for the Giants. We're almost midway through May. 123. You say, well, put that in perspective. Like the Los Angeles Angels, 171, they're in last place. The Reds, 159. The Minnesota Twins, 189 in last place. 123 runs. Like, if the expectations are, hey, we're at home and can we at least score 2 or 3 runs? You're not going to win base. I mean, hey, we love to see a 2-1 game. You can't expect that every game when you squeak those out. And also, you got to hit home runs. Nobody on that team. There's no power surges on that team, Craig.
Yeah, I think if somebody told me when I was at the park at the Marlins the other day that the last player to hit 30 home runs for the Giants was Barry Bonds, I mean, could that be true?
I mean, only
that's
30.
a really, really long 30. I mean, that's a really long time. I mean, it's 20 years.
We got to go opposite. Like, you got humidors like there that put it in most baseball stadiums. What do we do? Just send the juice baseballs to San Francisco just to offset it? Oh, don't get me started. Make me commissioner. We'll juice that baseball right back up. And maybe, Craig, along with the players themselves. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, Donnie, I mean, the Correa deal may have worked out for the Giants. They couldn't sign him. They couldn't sign Judge. Who could they sign?
Arson Judge would have been perfect. We'll be right back on Pete. Cy Young award season. We said, what do you mean award season? It's only in the month of May. You can't win the Cy Young early in the season, but you can certainly lose it, and sometimes through no fault of your own, which means getting injured. Heading into the season for the Detroit Tigers, I said to myself, boy, you get these two guys, talking about Framber Valdez and Tarek Skubal, to the playoffs as a 1-2 punch. Good luck trying to beat them. Now, the question for the Detroit Tigers is, will you still have that 1-2 punch come playoff time? But if you are looking for this tweet from Jeff Passan, if there maybe is a lining that says, hey, silver lining through this will be okay. Tarek Skubal undergoes surgery to remove loose bodies in his left elbow. Typically takes 2 to 3 months of recovery time. He should be there for season's end. But, Craig, we don't know how the elbow is going to respond. We don't know how this is going to play out here. But one of the guys looking to win another Cy Young is not going to win it this year, Craig.
No, he's not. And obviously, I'm rooting for him to come back healthy, and I want to see him get a mega deal and sign with either the Tigers or somewhere else. But we do have to be realistic with this and hope that he just is able to finish well and maybe get his team into the postseason. But beyond that, Donnie, you're 100% right. He's not winning the Cy Young, which brings up the conversation of who is going to be the Cy Young Award winner this year. And I do have some thoughts on this, too, that I do want to ask you about this, actually, Donnie, which is as follows. Sam, throw up the Cy Young Award odds here for a minute. Oh, you don't have it. Okay. My bad. Cam Schlittler, Donnie, is currently the favorite. So here's my honest question to you. If Cam Schlittler was on the Royals, would he be favored to win the American League Cy Young? Just honest question. Like, to me, I think we're paying a big Yankees tax on this player in particular.
Yes, and here's my response to this. Right now, no. But if this was in the month of September, probably yes, if you extrapolate those numbers. But you are correct. We're looking at a major market team, somebody who's been dominant pitching, that's going to be in the headlines and also having a great season. But you're right. Name recognition is what we're usually looking for. Like, okay, if it's not going to be Tarek Skubal, who has won the Cy Young for a couple years, who else is it going to be? We immediately go to the names. Like, well, I heard of Dylan Cease before, and maybe a Logan Gilbert's been out there. Oh, veteran Kevin Gausman. Oh, there's Jacob deGrom. When you see Cam Schlittler here, it's like, who does he even pitch for? Now, we know he pitches for the New York Yankees because it's the New York Yankees. Analytically, Craig, he's got great statistics, but I agree. I don't think anybody, like the day after the injury from Skubal came out, if Schlittler was pitching for the Kansas City Royals, that's my guy I'm taking right now. But he's the favorite on the board right now to be the Cy Young Award winner. If we stopped and we just used the betting market as the best pitcher in baseball, it's Cam at a plus 230 right now.
Yeah, I think it should be Dylan Cease, but because Dylan Cease does not pitch for the Yankees, I think that's why Dylan Cease is plus 260 and Cam Schlittler is plus 230. I also think if Jose Soriano was on a better team, and by the way, Soriano is going to drop off and he's not going to win the Cy Young. But to date, as far as what he has done, he is close to them as well. I think that this, Donnie, is wide open with Skubal out of the race. I think it could be anyone. I would not discount Drew Rasmussen on Tampa Bay based on the way that he has pitched as well. I think obviously Fried is in the mix also. Gavin Williams. Remember Gavin Williams a couple of years ago, Donnie, was, oh, this guy's going to be a Cy Young Award candidate. He didn't pull it together. Now he's finally putting it together. I think this market in particular is going to shift more than any other of the major league markets moving forward. I think this could be anybody's.
It is absolutely wide open. And sometimes, Craig, it's just the last pitcher standing. Like, yeah, I was able to get close to 200 innings. I was healthy, and maybe I wasn't the best pitcher, but all the other really good pitchers are down. I remember it was almost like a case study a couple years ago talking with Kevin Walsh where Jacob deGrom was having such a dominant season for the New York Mets. And when he got injured, they should just give him the Cy Young. It'll probably hang around in the race. Well, within 2 weeks in the month of July, he was down to 30th on the odds board, and rightfully so. So it's one of those where, hey, you might have that dominant start right up till midway through August. You get injured, Craig, you're not winning it because we look at WAR. We want the strikeout numbers. We want even though wins don't technically count, it still looks better on your record if you have, 17 wins as opposed to 9 wins when you got injured at that point. But Schlittler right now in the American League, 5-1 through his 9 starts here, 53 in the third innings pitched, a 1.35 ERA, but his WAR 2.4, which is above Dylan Cease at 1.9. I know WAR is not the end-all be-all, but a lot of people like to use that there.
No, you're right.
You're right. In this equation, you don't have the superstar names at the top. And also, how do we handle this, Craig? Schlittler listed there at the top of the standings. Max Fried also having a very good season in his WAR at 1.8. Could we be fighting, Craig, with 2 Yankee pitchers down the stretch, not named, I don't know, Mr. Superstar who's supposed to come back, and Garrett, who was a previous Cy Young Award winner as well?
Yeah, I mean, remember 2 years ago, Donnie, we were playing this game with Luis Heel at plus 230 of the Yankees being the favorite to win the Cy Young, and then he fell off. But look, I hope Schlittler keeps it up. Certainly, I'm not rooting against him. I'm just saying that value-wise, you'd be hard-pressed to get me to put my hard-earned money down on a Yankee just because he's a Yankee. And Schlittler has been very good. He was very good in the postseason. But talk to me after he throws 150 pitches, and then I'll decide who wins.
Yankees are spoiled right now. You get Garrett Cole back in the rotation with Fried and Schlittler here, and who knows if they make any changes down the line. But this is marketplace is as wide open as you're going to get here, with Schlittler the favorite at a plus 230 place, followed closely by Dylan Cease at plus 260 here. Pro Baseball Sunday rolls on this glorious Sunday. Next.
We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March, so some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note, too, DraftKings and FanDuel were only active for about 12 days.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Early May Major League Baseball. Love to see it. Weather starting to get a little bit better here. It's Mother's Day. Great day to spend it at the ballpark here, but also understand this. You're going to spend hour number 2 with us right here. Why? Because you love to talk Major League Baseball. It's Donnie Rightside, and it's Craig Miss here. Pro Baseball Today, getting after it. And also, sometimes, Craig, I say like new week, new money. Yeah, we got seasons, series, everything you need to know. We got you covered this hour.
Yeah, and I think we'll look at all of the. Sorry, caught me with the glasses.
I love.
During the week on Newswire, I'm wearing the glasses, but on this show, since you're hosting, I don't need my glasses today because Donnie's got me covered on all the information. It should be a fun week ahead. We've got some. I think when you look at it, it's not the big mega matchups, Donnie, early in the week. Look, we got to call it how it is. I think it's fair to say. But you do get like the emotional matchups here with the Giants taking on the Dodgers and some of the other series as well. Next weekend, I think you get some of these rivalry series, I think, going on, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that'll be the fun part of the week.
Now, by the way, Craig, you know I'm always going to stop and slow the train down just a little bit. You're an insider in Major League Baseball, and you know what question's coming right now. See, a lot of people poking and prodding around in Orange County saying, is now the time to move Mike Trout? We know the Angels stinking as an organization right now. We know Mike Trout's actually healthy and ready to go. When are you going to get that buzz to your phone that says, you know what, I got to go for a second and step out because Mike Trout could be on the move? So I'll ask you this again. Mike Trout ends the season
week,
as an Angel. Yes, he's got him. Look at the guy, 27. And he could be roaming the outfield close to his golf course. He can play golf in the morning and baseball in the afternoon, Craig. It just makes too much sense.
Mike Trout remains an Angel his entire career. That's that's the way I'm. You know, if this was any other franchise, I would say they'd move him. But we've talked about this at length. Arnie Marino and company. Look, I mean, credit to them for buying the team and running the team and doing whatever they do. I'm not here to knock, okay? But they just run things differently than virtually any other organization. It feels like you got to go through a lot to get a guy like this moved. They didn't handle the Ohtani situation the way that they probably did. I mean, we're going to look back, Donnie, on this. And honestly, of all the things we're going to talk about 10, 20 years from now, when Shohei Ohtani is standing up at the podium and getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, we're going to wonder, how is it possible that the Angels did not just like give him 40% of the franchise? You know, like, how did they let that guy go? Like, we're going to look back on that and say they were able to land Shohei Ohtani in free agency and could not keep him. I don't think they're going to let that happen with Trout.
And he walked across the street, literally at this point, to actually be a superstar once again with the Los Angeles Dodgers, just the way it is. But new week, new money, we like to say, new week, new pitchers, and also new matchups here. Let's take a look at this one. The Yankees and the Orioles here in the AL East. Well, look at the Yankees, 26-14 here, 6-4 in their last 10 games. They're doing A-OK, and also 14-6 in the Bronx here. Now, this game is going to take, this set is going to take place on the road with those Orioles, Craig. 2-8 in their last 10 games. Coming into Sunday on another losing streak. 17 wins on the season. Things aren't going so well there. Weathers, Warren, and Fried versus Rogers, Young, and Bradish. Sooner than later, the Orioles going to wake up, or, Craig, this is what they are.
They will get Trevor Rogers back, so that's the good news for them on Monday. He has been out, I think, with an illness, and Bradish has been okay. Young actually pitched well when I saw him this past week in South Florida. But, Donnie, when the Yankees played the Orioles last time out, it was a demolishing. The Yankees absolutely crushed them. Look, here's what I would say about the Orioles. And I don't know how this series is going to go in particular, but you would assume the Yankees have a massive pitching advantage in this series, at least 2 of the 3 games, is that the Orioles, unfortunately, and I do like that front office there, and I know the guys there, they have no one to blame but themselves at this point. The only real attempt that they made to go out and get pitching, they made 2 attempts, I'll say that. They made the trade for the guy that you're going to see in Trevor Rogers, who was fantastic for them last season, and then when they got Corbin Burns. Beyond that, Donnie, with all of this, and they do have good hitting. Trust me, they're going to hit this season, Donnie. They're always going to hit. They have enough hitting. They got Pete Alonso. Rutschman is fine. They'll get Westberg back. They'll get Holiday back. They can hit. They can't pitch. It's the same thing. I mean, how many years are they going to go through this with all of these young hitters? They still did not do enough. And by the way, Donnie, let's also keep it real. Did they really think Trevor Rogers was going to be as good as he was last year, and thinking that he was going to front the rotation again with not much help? I mean, the Shane Baz trade, like I don't know, man. Like you are going. I know it sucks to invest money in pitching, and it almost never works out. But you have to get your group together and figure out, how are we going to get pitching on this team? They still can't do it. It's crazy.
Trying to stick around there. We eventually think they'll hit. They're in dead last place right now. But if we do keep it in the division here, how about Rays-Jays action this week, Craig? The Rays, by the way, by percentage points, a winning percentage of .658 in first place, slightly over those New York Yankees. Under 500 this early in the season still is the Toronto Blue Jays at 18-21. The Rays in their last 10 games, 8-2. The Jays are sitting at 5-5. Looking at the pitching matchups here, McClanahan, Jax, and Schlotten's taking on Gaussman, Corbin, and Cease here. Sooner than later, we talked about the Orioles. The Jays got to get it together, but the Rays playing fantastic baseball here early in the month of May.
Yeah, and who would have thought that we'd be throwing names like Jackson Schultens out there, and that's who's getting it done for Tampa Bay, but it really is the case. So look, Wednesday, Toronto has a major advantage with Dylan Cease, but beyond that, I think Tampa Bay probably wins 2 out of 3 again in this series here this week. They've been piecing it together and figuring it out, just like they always have. McClanahan has been great this season for them. Ever since, I believe, his first start, he's been fantastic. So make me a Rays believer. I'll believe in them. I also think, by the way, Toronto's going to be good for the rest of the season too. But just in this particular 3-game matchup, maybe this is one of the more marquee matchups of the week.
By the way, a little dyslexia there for me there. Yeah. So where do I get Schlottens from? Is there a Schlottens somewhere that I'm saying that wrong there as opposed to Schultens? Was there a Schlottens anywhere in Major League Baseball that I'm mispronouncing that? Because that came up immediately looking at that name here. But hey, maybe he makes a name for himself. And I correct myself next week if they continue to be the first place Rays here. But we'll keep moving on. We just talked about those Angels. And where do they struggle? Well, basically everywhere. 15-25 now on the season. They're going to take on the Guardians. How about the Guardians? A game above 500, Craig, on the season. 6-4 in their last 10, in first place in the Central Division, trying to hold off those Rays here. But take a look at that. I love it, man. Look at Tuesday, Craig. Come on, man. Give me the breakdown once again on Urania this week. Let's go. If you have it in them with a big victory, come on.
This is gross this week for the Angels. Oh my gosh. Dana, Urania, and Detmers. Dana, Urania, and Detmers. How did the Angels get here on May 10th, man? Like, oof. Yeah, it's going to be rough. They're going to get swept.
No, not a good one there. Not a good one at this point. The Diamondbacks, we want them to start hitting the baseball here. They're going to take on the Rangers in a set here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Soroka, Gallen, and Nelson, Eovaldi, Gore, and Rocker. Pretty good matchups here. And if we take a look at the Rangers, hovering in third place in the West out there, last 10 games, 4-6. This was one of the teams, again, Craig, I was looking forward to in this Major League Baseball season. Good for them that they're 3 games under 500, but only 3 games back of the lead out there in the West. The Athletics are still sitting in first place here. We're taking a look. It's 2 teams stuck in the mud right now. Somebody's got to get jump-started soon.
Yeah, Rangers are getting roasted a little bit, not playing great fundamental baseball. A little surprising to me. I thought that they would be better than they have shown. So hard to back them. I think defensively they've had some issues there too, and offensively not great. Their pitching certainly on paper this week. You look at Eovaldi and say, okay, that's a big advantage for them going into the week. But beyond that, I think the Rangers probably have to overhaul a little bit more of the roster in the offseason. They really didn't do a ton this past offseason outside of bidding farewell to a couple of their players like Simeon and Adolis Garcia. It seems like probably more is going to happen for the Rangers to become a good team. They're probably about a 500 team this season.
I look at my Phillies and say, this team is way too talented. Payroll's too high for them to underperform, be under 500. I get the same vibes here from the Seattle Mariners. 19-21. You say, were they terribly injured at this point? No. Look at their starting staff. Kirby, Wu, Hancock, and Miller coming up in a 4-game set against those Astros here. Sooner than later, Cream's got to rise to the top here, and the Mariners should be in first place. But again, luckily they're chasing an Athletics team that's only 21-18. Ems, can they get jump-started against the Astros here?
Dan Wilson, manager, starting to feel some pressure here. I don't think any doubt, Donnie. The Mariners have to be better than what they've shown, but the key start, of course, is Monday. Imai pitches for Houston. They have got to get something out of this guy. They signed him to a lot of money this offseason.
Same thing. Step up, McCullers as well. We're stepping up after the break. More Major League Baseball next. One of the better rivalries in Major League Baseball throughout my childhood. It was always looking out there, the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Who can knock who out of the playoffs? A little bit more one-sided at this point right now with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they are going to have a nice little set coming up on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 4 games here. The Dodgers in first place right now, Craig, 24-15. The Giants reverse that record, 15-24. Before we get into the pitching matchups and what we think is going to happen, Craig, and like talking about Tony Vitello having that, post-game press conference, hey, these guys spend a lot of money out here to come watch us play. We're not giving it a lot of support. Buster Posey already making changes here. It's not that Buster Posey's, hey, this guy's 60 years old, been in baseball 42 years in management, whatever it might be. Are we talking about maybe some major changes that could come to San Francisco? Or is there just a honeymoon/grace period this way to see what they have at manager, see what they have on the roster, and also with Buster Posey?
Yeah, for Tony Vitello, it would be a huge indictment on Posey if they fired him after 1 year. So I don't see that happening. I think it's more of a roster construction and a confluence of event type deal. But, they have such passionate fans and a beautiful ballpark, and they just have not been able to consistently win. I believe the last time they won, ironically, was with Gabe Kapler as manager, and he won Manager of the Year. They won over 100 games, and they won the division, too. So I don't know how they get back to that. It seems like back then they figured out a way to play. They placed Webb on the IL, so Trevor McDonald, I guess, will start for them this week. They did play well last time against the Dodgers. Usually when these two teams play, you sort of throw out the records a little bit, Donnie, so they have that going for them. But last 10 games, 2-8, that's the worst record in baseball. They're not hitting. And look, Donnie, is it inconceivable to think that the Giants could lose 100 games? I mean, that could be out there for them. This year. I mean, look, it just extrapolate their win-loss record right now. It gives you 100. So they're in big trouble. But I don't think it cost the manager the job. But that trade that they got to get Devers looked like a godsend, and everyone ripped the Red Sox. It looks like the Red Sox may have gotten out of one of the worst contracts in baseball. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
It's incredible. And also, we talk about they need to hit here. 123 runs. We're like, okay, well, that's not good enough, but at least they're pitching well. They're a minus 49 in run differential, so just being competitive is something we can help. And you brought it up. Trevor McDonald expect to start Monday. That was supposed to be Logan Webb. And it's like, okay, let's just stay healthy and ride this out. Webb's down for 15 days, which is at least a couple starts here as your best pitcher. Things aren't looking up for the Giants. And when you do play the Dodgers, who are expected to get back Mookie Betts in this series, boy, oh boy, you lose, 3 out of 4 this series or get swept in a 4-game set. Maybe they do have some changes on the horizon here for the Giants and the Dodgers. But let's start that series up on a Monday. Another interesting series, which is going to take Monday off. That's the Philadelphia Phillies and the Red Sox here. 2 teams we expected to be maybe front runners in their division. Last time I checked, the Red Sox tied for last place with 17 wins with the Baltimore Orioles, with the Phillies starting to wake up and only 18 wins on the season for those Phillies. Wheeler, Painter, and Luzardo on the mound going up against Suarez, Gray, and Early. And by the way, this is in Boston. Would have been interesting if this series was in Philadelphia and Ranger Suarez going up against Zach Wheeler. How about that start on Tuesday, Craig?
Yeah, Red Sox are still messy. Robin Anthony going on the IL. Good for them that they got a win this weekend, but they just don't look like a competitive team to me. As I said, I think the Phillies will be fine. Look, Wheeler will be good. I saw Luzardo last week. He was good too. But look, Andrew Painter, I don't know. Maybe Donnie, what you said earlier in the show is the point here. If Painter, they just let him go through his growing pains and throw 5 innings and give up 5 runs, is that okay with them? But he isn't even getting 5 innings, and Philly generally is not kind to their kids who are struggling. So they already punted Taijuan Walker. Does Painter need to go back down to the minors? If Painter goes 3 innings, Don, and gives up 6 or 7 runs again, I can't see them just allowing that to happen to stay competitive. So that's the one to keep an eye on for me. But Wheeler has been good, and so will Luzardo. I think Phillies probably take 2 out of 3 here.
And also outside of Philadelphia, we didn't really hear much about Andrew Painter. This was supposed to be the next guy in that rotation. This is the guy that said, okay, we'll let Suarez go away, and this guy's going to step in. And we don't expect him to be Cy Young right away, but the expectations are this guy's going to be a true number 1 in Major League Baseball. And it's early in his career. I get it. The injury did set him back here, but this is a guy that the Phillies and the Phillies fans in front office, Craig, have been looking at for a couple years as the next great thing in their starting lineup, and it just hasn't come to fruition just yet. The Royals and the Red Sox here, Central Division battle. The Royals playing much better baseball, Craig, as of late, 7-3 in their last 10. And how about the White Sox? Still above 500 in their last 10 games, going 6-4. They'll take it up this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Kolek, Lugo and Bubic, Fetty, Schultz, and Burke here on the line. Two teams right around 500 and also just out of the lead, a game and a half and 2 games back of that division, Craig.
Yeah, interesting when we discuss prediction markets, we can hit this on both sides. First for the White Sox. I mean, is it possible that Murakami, he's not going to win the MVP, but is it possible Murakami's a top 3 MVP guy in the American League this year, Donnie? I mean, he's changed the White Sox completely. Like, he's made them interesting, Montgomery too. And then on the side of the Royals, you look at the record, you're like, wait a second, what's so good about them? 19-21. Take a look at where they were a week ago. It looked like this was like the last place team. I think the Royals are going to be in for a nice run here, and I do like them this week. And of course, Lugo and Bubic, I think that those guys have a clear advantage in this matchup here. So look for Kansas City to start playing better baseball, treading above 500 or better. And again, for Chicago, how did so many teams miss out on Murakami? I know it's early and we've seen players get hot in the first half and crash in the second half. Maybe that happens with him, but I don't see that right now.
You know, also with Murakami, it wasn't like, well, wait, we're not going to offer the guy $300 million as a contract. He's a sensible contract here and doing a lot of damage, and a lot of teams had a chance to get after him here, including my Philadelphia Phillies. I go, Bohm's going to be fine at third base as I digress. Look at those Mets and Detroit Tigers. This is supposed to be one of those marquee series early in the season. Oh, those first-place Mets and those first-place Detroit Tigers. Look at that. Both of these teams in the top 5 as odds market to win the World Series. Not so fast anymore. The Tigers, 18-22, and the Mets, I guess you could say it was a good last 10 games at 5-5, because before that, they weren't winning any games on a week-to-week basis, it felt like. But the Mets at 15-24, and reeling are the Tigers with the news from Skubal, losing him for 2 to 3 months here. Flaherty, Valdez, and Montero going up against Peralta, Scott, and McClain here this week.
Yeah, and it was a really bad sign to see some media leakage a little bit on a trade with Peralta. That tells me, Donnie, that you know, it may not mean a trade is happening, but it means some discussions. And so you wonder if the Mets are looking at it at this point and saying, you know what, even if we battle back to be around 500, is it worth it? You know, McClain is going nowhere. He pitched well last time out. You know, Mets certainly could take 2 out of 3 or even win this series, but I didn't like hearing that if I'm a Mets fan. It sort of tells me that white flag not there yet, but in a few weeks we could see it.
So interesting, too, how you build the strength of a team. Give me good starting pitching, give me good bullpen, and sign a lot of guys that can hit at the plate. Oh, that's the Mets. They should be fine. Not so fast in 2026. We'll be back after this quick break. Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like
to test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, yeah, you don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number 1, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. And by the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome into the Twin Cities here next. Why? That's because the Marlins are on the road to take on those Minnesota Twins this week here. You take a look at the Marlins in fourth place currently, ahead of those New York Mets with 18 wins on the season and 22 losses. But a team, Craig, that we talked about that, I don't know, selling off was certainly what they wanted to do last year. Maybe a looming CBA, which means more selling off. The Minnesota Twins, they are in last place in the AL Central here with 17 wins and 23 losses. We look at the pitching matchups coming this week. Perez, Meyer, and Snelling going up against Ober, as we like to say, Mr. Bailey Ober, Woods, Richardson, and also Prelip here. How about that? Get after it. Let's go.
Yeah. Look, the Marlins have not played particularly well in this, and they have the most home games in baseball played, and I was at every single one of their games during this homestand. But, look, transparently speaking, I think that the Marlins have a big advantage in this series. The Twins, Donnie, the Twins are not good at all. Pablo Lopez was the front of that rotation. He is out. They just lost their best pitcher, Taj Bradley, and Joe Ryan is not pitching in the series. So, I think the Marlins have it ahead of them, especially, Donnie, on Wednesday and Thursday with Meyer and Snelling in those two starts. I'm not sure what's going on with Yuri Perez. He just hasn't looked the same this season, so I can't sit here and jump up and down and say he's going to be awesome. But I think the Marlins will win the series. I don't know if they'll win all three games, but I don't like the Twins at all, and I don't like what I've seen from them. And I don't know how they even, Donnie, make it through this season with their starting pitching. They've just lost. I think they have 11 pitchers on the injured list at this point. Just too much.
Target Field, man. Let's see what happens today. This week, Marlins and the Twins. Take a look at the Cardinals and the Athletics. Some interleague play here. The Athletics move on from Philadelphia to take on those St. Louis Cardinals. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Palante, Liberatore, McGreevy going up against Springs, Ginn, and Lopez. You look at the two teams on the season. The Cardinals, 23-16 in second place here. But how about the A's? It's May 10th, the first place Athletics. They don't have a town, but they got a first place team right here.
Yeah, incredible start for them, and definitely, offensively, they've done enough to sort of piece these games together. And look, if the Rangers and the Mariners are not going to play well, then this gives the A's the opportunity to do it. Out of nowhere, JT Ginn had a really good start last time out, and he goes Wednesday against the Cardinals. Springs has been a little bit hit or miss, but you would assume that the A's probably on paper, Donnie, light favorites in at least two of the three games this series, maybe minus 120s, minus 130. So look out. A's still probably hanging in there as we head to Memorial Day.
Last week, Craig, we're like, you know what? Some of the best series in baseball typically use the Atlanta Braves here. Oh, they're going to take on those Mariners in the Pacific Northwest. Now we take a look at the Braves taking on the Chicago Cubs this upcoming week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Ray, Imanaga, and Brown taking on Richie, Holmes, and Sale. 27 wins for the Braves. Tied in baseball with who? Yeah, so Chicago Cubs, Craig, 27 wins as well. Let's go.
Yeah, this is the best series of the week. We said that there weren't a ton of great series, but this is absolutely the best one of the early part of the week. Braves will be, I think, favored in all three of them. But obviously, when you're talking about Imanaga going on Tuesday, or Wednesday, that will be the one that the Cubs will probably be a slight favorite in. But look, I think the Cubs end up meeting their match this week. It's not to say that they're not a great team and they may end up winning the division, but the Braves, to me, Donnie, are just so formidable. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Acuna could come off the IL on Wednesday or Thursday this week. It would be possible for them. So that would be a huge boost. But I'm not getting in the way of either of these two teams. I'll just sit back and watch it.
How about sit back, watch this next series here? It's the National and the Reds. Could we get some runs? Look at the pitching matchups here coming in. Michaelis, Irvin, and Griffin, Singer, Louder, and Lodolo. High ERAs across the board. Come on, man. Crack at a bat, leave the yard. Love it here. Get this home runs. That little ballpark over there, Craig, puts them into the seats this week, man. Let's go.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get, Donnie. That's a good explanation for this series. Michaelis has been a little bit better, but we're seeing Washington, and we saw it against Miami. I think we're going to see it next week, too. I think that they're good. Outside of Griffin, I think that they're going to throw relievers at the beginning of the game and use openers to get through this thing. I think that's, Washington's doing it a lot more with analytics and development, and so I could see that happening. And for the Reds, you're absolutely right. Like, no threat pitching whatsoever in the series. Singer, Louder has fallen back. Lodolo is going to have to find his way after coming off the IL. Nationals, I would guess Nationals Thursday will be favored. Beyond that, probably pick 'em games. High totals, 9s, 9.5, I would say, at Great American Ballpark this week.
How about this series coming up? Two teams over 500. Love to talk about those. That's the Padres are going to take on the Brewers in Milwaukee. Take a look at the Padres in second place right now in the West. Just one game back of those Los Angeles Dodgers. Then you flip it over to the Brewers, who are above 500 in the ultimate competitiveness right now of that Central Division at 21-16. Winners of 3 games in a row. The Brewers 7-3 in their last 10. Take on the Padres under 500 last 10, but still playing good baseball here. The Big Miz on Wednesday going up against Canning. Mismatch right there. Let's go.
Yeah, the Brewers did lose Woodruff, but they are getting back Yelich and Chorio, so that's like the trade-off there. I think the Padres are just the better team of the two, but it should be a competitive, fun series.
How about, it's competitive and fun, Craig, to talk about the prediction markets here with some of the awards and some hot topics you need to know. We give it to you all on Pro Baseball today. It's a Sunday morning on the SportsGrid Network. It's Donnie and Craig. Come on back with us. You have sports books, you have prediction markets here. You sort of meld the two together and say, you know what are the odds on the Cy Young? How can you win this year? Yeah, sports books are great for that. But you know what sports books aren't going to give you? When is Tarek Skubal going to actually come back into the rotation? If he does, for the Detroit Tigers in 2026. We flip it over to the Kalshi marketplace right now. And you say, okay, where do we go from here? Before June 1st, which would be one of the most miracle surgeries to ever happen, him to come back in a matter of 3.5 weeks. Yeah, that's only a 9% chance. But the favorite right now is actually before July 13th, 2026, which sets him out a couple months at this point. Craig, if I am a gambling man and I want to invest my money, I'm taking the nose on this here. You could take a no contract on before July 13th, which means he comes back after that date. That $100, investment, that would be, let's see, $286 back. I'm taking the no contracts. I'm extending the timeline here, Craig, for Tarek Skubal.
Yeah, it does make sense what you're saying, Donnie. Let's also keep something else in mind. Mm-hmm. Baseball, around that exact date, if we're just playing that date into the predictions, is right around baseball's All-Star break. So isn't it conceivable to think that while the All-Star break is going on, that they would have Skubal making his rehab starts in minor league baseball during that time, while the All-Star break in Major League Baseball is going on? So to me, I'm with you. I think it's a no. I think that he skips, obviously, the All-Star game, and I think he's pitching in the minors. And then one of the first few games out immediately after the break is over, that's when we see Skubal. Seems like easy math to me.
Yep, and also, if you look at the market rules, which are always listed there, if Tarek Skubal plays for the Tigers after May 8th, 2026, which is currently right now, and before July 16th, 2026, then the market will resolve to yes. So we would have to play in a Major League Baseball game. Always, as we like to say, Craig, read the fine print out here at this point. Now, managers, you're hired to be fired in Major League Baseball. And sometimes, even in Philadelphia, a manager got fired. Hey, no ill will towards Topper, and he understood the task. Team wasn't playing baseball. I'm going to go, and hopefully I can find a job. Now we take a look at the chances for Major League Baseball managers to be out, which means who's going to get fired. Dan Wilson right now in Calgary, I don't think this is quite fair. He's currently has a 99% chance of being out for the Seattle Mariners. Now, understand this. You take a look at the contracts, though, it's 61% here. So $100 investment pays back $164. But whoever came up with the odds market basically says, yeah, you're getting the discount here. He's going to be gone.
Could be him. The other interesting one is, Donnie, if nothing else happened, remember, Kurt Suzuki of the Angels is on a 1-year deal. So what would happen if no one, Donnie, got let go before the end of the season, and then they told Kurt Suzuki, we're not having you back, 5 games to go? It could be him. So that would be another interesting name for me. But I brought Wilson up earlier in the show. He was so great with Seattle last year. It's crazy to think how things can change. I also would not rule out Mendoza. I know he got the vote of confidence, but let's be honest, what confidence would there be in the Mets if they're 20 games under 500 in July?
And also Tony Vitello, a guy that we've been talking about a lot just because coming over from baseball here, not working out so early on. He's currently listed at a 30% chance. But understand this too, Craig, the fine print and the details as well in the Calgary marketplace. If the manager, and we're talking about Vitello, if the manager of the San Francisco pro baseball team leaves or announces they will leave before December 2026, December 1st. So understand this too. It's not the first manager to be fired, but also they don't have to get fired during the season. You got about a month or so after the World Series where they can make that change. And it still comes to fruition. So, hey, great, made it to the end of the season. Oh, no, they fired him 2 days later. Yeah, good luck with that because that's still going to count as a firing here. How about this? The Red Sox, who did fire Alex Cora, who is going to be their next permanent manager? Chad Tracy is in the lead here at 43% as a chance, followed by Andrew Bailey, Rocco Baldelli, David Ross, Jason Varitek, one of the greats there for the Boston Red Sox in the past. But Chad Tracy, if things go well, I guess they're anticipating here, Craig, in the odds market that he is going to be their next manager.
Yeah, I don't think so. I know that Tracy is now the hand-picked guy from Breslow, but Tracy, I think he would have to get the team above 500, Donnie, to stick. Yeah. And Breslow, by the way, still has to answer to the ownership there, too. So regardless of what he wants to do, I think that that's a possibility. The name that just showed up there for me that I, honestly completely forgot about was Rocco Baldelli. I forgot about, right? Yeah. Like, I thought Rocco Baldelli managed the Twins very well until the end. And then, of course, I thought they were going in another direction. I don't know if they even know which direction they're going. So that's definitely an interesting name for me. Varitek would be an absolute no shot. You'd be losing money on that.
How about this one? The Laser Show here, Craig. Dustin Pedroia, 2 cents he's trading at. You think they get a little vibes in that dugout? $100 investment pays back $5,000. How about a Laser Show in that dugout, Craig? Come on. We could put him back in. The fans will love it, though.
Well, you know what? Breslow didn't have a ton of front office experience before he got the job, so maybe that would be the deal. But generally speaking, these guys do hire at least guys that have some experience in a clubhouse or on a bench. It doesn't all happen like the Giants did there.
That certainly doesn't. Let's talk Philadelphia Phillies. Now, you might think it's going to be Don Mattingly here as their future manager, but he's going to do it this season. The interesting part about this is the whole Dombrowski, close to Cora, offers the job to Cora. Maybe not the right time to do it. We'll make Mattingly the manager, but also understand this. Mattingly's not a spring chicken right here. Probably thinking, okay, I could be a manager, and I'm not going to turn it down, which he didn't. He could have said, no, I don't want to be the manager of the Phillies. Bring somebody else here. I'll still be the bench coach at this point. So answer me this question. If the Phillies play good baseball the rest of the way out, and let's just say they make the playoffs and get dumped in round number 2, do you think Mattingly will be that full-time manager and get the extension to be that? Or is it already hand in hand like, hey, Don, talk to you. Be the manager this year. We know you weren't expecting that here, but you'll always have a job. The GM is obviously your son. We're going to bring in Alex Cora, and you'll go right back to being a bench coach. Because if you look at the odds market here, Craig, 38% chance for Mattingly to be the manager moving forward, but Cora right behind him at 25%.
Yeah, this is very complex, Donnie, because I don't think it's a slam dunk that Cora accepts the Phillies job. I don't think that that's a slam dunk. I think, in my opinion, if I had to guess, Mattingly is the manager next season, maybe gets just like a 1-year extension, maybe 2. And I think Cora is the manager of the Houston Astros next season. I think that is the destination there. Cora came from Houston. I think Jim Crane, the owner there, I think Donnie, he's going to look at what Philly's offering him and is going to say, just come back to me and I'll offer you more, whatever that is. Yeah. And I think that, and Cora won a World Series, if I'm not mistaken, with the Astros too. I think that that's where he goes. I think Alex Cora is going to be the manager of the Astros. It's my guess. And I think money's involved too.
Phillies always like to keep things in-house a lot. Like, it's a very good organization where it's like, hey, ushers have been there since like the 1980s and general managers have worked there for a long time in that front office. They don't like to get rid of people. They like tradition. The reason I bring that up is Dusty Wathan was the AAA manager for the Phillies for a long time, elevated into the dugout here, and they always speak so highly of him, but every time they're looking for a manager
he never
going
gets
out,
the gig.
He never gets the gig, but he's only 7 cents right now. It's $100 to pay back $14.29. I don't know if it goes off the rails. This is one of those guys, again, like, you know, players in the minor league system that you hear about. It's Wathan's going to be that next manager and always gets passed over, but I guess playing that good soldier here. Now, talk about this, Craig. Andrew Painter coming up, you know, gets the Tommy John surgery on his way back, hasn't fully made it back. But Aiden Miller was one of those players that the Phillies expected to be major league ready for this year and be an impact player. And now we're getting updates that before the season, back troubles, give him some time off. Well, he started working out again, Craig. Injured himself again, just taking like ground balls. So they asked when the Kalshi Market plays his debut date. It's listed all 26 and 27. Give me 2030 out there, Craig. Whatever that is, that's his date he appears for the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm tired of all this nonsense. A young player with a back injury, when has that ever benefited a team?
Yeah, so we are approximately 1 hour and 40 minutes into the show, and I've come to my first I have no idea answer of the day. Like, this is not one for me. I'm not in on understanding what's going on with the Phillies. I'm very aware of who Aiden Miller is, and I know he's a very good prospect, but you would be taking coin number 2 for me and coin number 1 and just flipping them. I got no clue on this one. I have much better opinions on the rest of the league. As you said, Donnie, it is a complete mystery with injuries on a player that, by the way, they don't even need right now too. So stay away from me.
No, they don't. And by the way, the only reason why Aiden Miller's even coming up because I like the Philadelphia Phillies and I just like to get frustrated at topics here. And also, so I got homework for Craig. Even though it's Mother's Day and Craig's gonna have a busy day here, Craig, take Mother's Day and just send some texts out to the Phillies organization and get me some details on Aiden Miller at this point. By the way, if you are checking on Aiden Miller, see if he's part of a trade package for Mike Trout out there in Anaheim. So we work it all in together today, people. Hot topics, they don't stop. We'll be right back. Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like that.
To test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number 1, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. By the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that it's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Players to be traded. And you might say to yourself, what do you mean traded already in Major League Baseball? We're sitting here in the month of May. Nobody gets traded to the deadline. You hold out there at that point, post All-Star break. You try to improve your teams because then we have the winners and the losers in Major League Baseball. Not so fast. You just saw the San Francisco Giants and the Cleveland Guardians make a trade already for a catcher here that might be able to help the Guardians out and also maybe bringing some bats here back to San Francisco. So we take a look at the Kalshi marketplace here, Craig. Players to be traded. The favorite right now, chance-wise, is in Cleveland. That's Stephen Kwan. Alcantara down in Miami, your neck of the woods, 54%. Luis Severino, the A's. Joe Ryan, who's injured, trying to battle back. He's at 37% here. But Kwan looks like a legitimate chance to be dealt here for Cleveland. I would love Kwan in Philadelphia. Aiden Miller, we just talked about. Where is he? Nowhere to be found. Give me Kwan. Come on, Craig. Make a call on that one.
We've hit the Phillies part of the show. I can see it.
Yes.
I mean, you should want Joe Ryan more than any of them. I mean, to me, that is the key name here. As the Twins, I think, will free fall at some point. And I mentioned earlier in the show when you're in May, and I know Pablo Lopez got injured in spring training and is going to miss the season. You can make the case he was the ace or not. I don't know. But then you take a look and you say, okay, Taj Bradley, one of the key names that has pitched very well for the Twins, and he's out too. Why, Donnie, would they even wait to trade Joe Ryan at this point? I think that, to me, is a name that could go even before July or maybe even in June. The Twins are going nowhere this season whatsoever, and Ryan, he may not be a 1, but he's absolutely a 2 or a 3 for a contending team. So that would be the one that I think has the best shot to go and go quick.
I'll tell you what's interesting, too, Craig. You look at this marketplace, and so much is talked about on this show and this previous week is when is Tarek Skubal actually coming back? But even pre-injury, there was always that thought process, like maybe we can't afford him here in Detroit and just going to go to the highest bidder. But before we do that, let's restock our farm system or maybe get some eligible Major League Baseball players back where we can still make that postseason run. You look at Skubal right now here in the Kalshi marketplaces. Yes, contract to be traded is only 19 cents, which means $100 pays back $5.27. The injury does complicate things. But Craig, if I ask you this question, is there a chance that even with the injury he comes back, or before he comes back, I guess, would be hitting that market? It's such a tough decision to make with so much money there. But could Detroit move on from Skubal?
Okay, so I think, Donnie, if I'm correct in answering this, I'm not positive, but I think if I'm not mistaken, didn't Cleveland trade Shane Bieber injured to Toronto last year, at the end of last year, and then Bieber came back and pitched for Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, in the playoffs and in the World Series. So at least we do have some possibility of that happening, because that just happened now. Obviously, Skubal, higher level pitcher of Bieber, although you would say 3-4 years ago, Bieber at the same level, by the way, of Skubal, like potentially winning Cy Youngs. So yes, is your answer. Yes, I do think that could happen. But what would the Tigers get back in return? It certainly wouldn't be as good as anything that they would get when they know that he is healthy. But I personally don't think the Tigers are going to trade him, because I think they'll be within a game or two of the division. But it is complicated, and it's a very, very tough spot to be in for the front office to make that call at the deadline.
Talking about some of those front offices as well, like, you know, it's rare sometimes for good baseball teams or expecting good baseball teams to trade superstar players. But the San Diego Padres, they did change ownership here, Craig. And if I slide the list down on the Kalshi marketplace, you find yourself from Fernando Tatis only trading at 7 cents here as a yes contract to be traded, which means a $100 investment will pay back $14.29. Never really know truly where teams are going, but the Padres, I don't think new ownership came in to say, let's strip down the payroll. But if things aren't going well, could a guy like Tatis Jr. maybe be on the move?
Padres probably in major trouble in the offseason just because of so many long-term deals that they gave out to Machado, you mentioned, and Tatis and some others, Bogarts. It felt like the previous ownership did that just to take a shot, and now, unfortunately, these new owners have to pay the bill somehow. So I don't know what the future holds there, but I do know that the general manager is going to trade whatever he has in the farm system to get better. So to answer your question, Donnie, this season in particular, as we close out June, July, August, etc., I don't think the Padres trade off any pieces at all. I think it is all player acquisition. Once again, although they're running out of young players to trade, it seems like they've traded them all the last couple of years.
Trading pieces, trying to catch up with those Dodgers, which is a perfect segue into this. We head over to Polymarket and say, well, who's actually going to win the World Series this year in 2026? It's always the Dodgers on these marketplaces here. Over $20 million in volume. And the Dodgers here looking at, looks like 27% as their chance to win the World Series. Yankees, Braves, Cubs, Mariners. Baseball hard to win because it's not who wins the regular season. It's who's hot at the right time and who's ready to go. And last year, the Dodgers, as you remember, Craig, weren't the best overall team in baseball record-wise, but once we got to the playoffs, really hit a home run there. Yankees, Braves, Cubs, and Mariners chasing them down. Is it still the Dodgers for you, or hey, the Dodgers laying in wait? Mookie Betts coming back this week. We'll see how things work. They're not dominating baseball. And again, they don't have the best record in baseball, Craig. How are we playing this one out for you here?
Yeah, I mean, somewhere out there, Donnie, Isaiah kind of Falefa's like, throw me on Polymarket here. Wait a second. I almost scored the game-winning run of the World Series. It should be closer than that. I feel the same way. I think if I was going to play this, I'd play an American League team and just hope that they could get to the Dodgers. Something maybe happens to them in the NLCS or maybe even the World Series. So, the hard part is outside of the Yankees right now, and I hate to even say it, but outside of the Yankees, is there a team that you think right now is built with starting pitching to shut down the Dodgers in a 7-game World Series? I don't know the answer to that. Blue Jays surprised a lot of people last year. Maybe there will be some other team outside of New York to do that. You would say a lot of people thought that the cool pick was Seattle at the beginning of the year, but they're under 500. Like if Seattle completely turns it around, goes on some streaks and ends up winning some games, maybe, but I think the Dodgers would slaughter Seattle right now in a 7-game World Series. Seattle's not pitching or even hitting at all.
Also, some of that disrespect that still flows to those Tampa Bay Rays. You get a kick out of here. They're only trading at 3% right now in Polymarket. That contract, $100 investment, does pay back $2,400 there. But then again, if you're looking for those teams that you feel haven't started all that well, maybe can find themselves over the summer, a team like the Philadelphia Phillies trading at 3% here. A team that I was high on to start the season, the Texas Rangers, at 3%. Understand this as well. With the prediction markets here, you don't have to actually win the World Series to have a profitable ticket. You take the Philadelphia Phillies at 3% here, and all of a sudden, in a month and a half, they're right behind the Atlanta Braves. Well, that 3% contract is now sitting at 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10%, and that's when you can cash out in that market with an obviously an opportunity here. But for me, teams like the Mets, 2%, I don't know if we're buying in, Craig, but if you took a team struggling right now and said, you know what, I think they'll be profitable, who would that be, Craig? Any certain team?
Yeah, Kansas City. That would be the team. Yeah, Kansas City. I think they will be over 500 at some point and chasing down the division. And they don't have a major. I mean, Reagan's hurt again, but they don't have a major injury that could derail them. And their offense, to me, is underachieved.
I like where you go, Craig. 1% here, which means a $100 investment, $5,600 back on those AC Royals. And we'll be back after this short break. Winning the World Series with a 1% chance. Let's go, Craig Mish. But let's flip it over to stolen bases in Major League Baseball. Say, well, why would you guys go to stolen bases here? Well, maybe somebody putting the show together likes those Washington Nationals a little bit here, and then we take a look at who's leading the league in stolen bases with 16. Nasim Nunez here. And by the way, like Jose Ramirez. I'm sorry, Craig, but I don't picture Usain Bolt or Ricky Henderson. But every year, this guy's stealing bases left and right, second with 15 of those so far. So if we take a look at the marketplace and say to ourselves, so Poly Market, who can actually win this? Do you know the favorite is, though? It's Chandler Simpson. Guy can run. 34% is his chance here. How about that?
Yeah, so, Nunez I'm familiar with because he was drafted by Miami. And what the Nationals are doing, Donnie, is that if you dare to spend your time watching Nationals baseball, and like Sam, is that at least once a game, Nunez is bunting. At least. Yeah. So they have sort of determined that the player that he has to be is getting on base any way possible. When a left-handed pitcher pitches, Donnie, you could use this in your handicapping. Nunez bunts down the first base line because the pitcher, as a lefty, is falling off, and so he can run as fast as he can down the first base line. He gets on first, he's automatically on second, and then maybe on third. I don't think he's going to lead the league in stolen bases, just because I don't think he's going to get on base as much as others. But he's a sort of old school great defender. They're just looking for him to get on base 30% of the time. That's low, bat 220, 230, and play good defense. But I do think Jose Ramirez has a chance. I like the idea of Simpson, so I'm not going to really pivot off that. But I think all three of those guys are certainly in play. My National League one would obviously be Elly De La Cruz. I think at the end of the season, he's going to find himself up there.
De La Cruz currently trading at 5 cents right now. By the way, Chandler Simpson is the leader right now, but you do take a look at Simpson. He's only four stolen bases back of the leader, Nasim Nunez, right now as it plans out, but certainly a fun marketplace that you could dip into. Stolen bases, how about that? But also, we're talking about teams with 9, 10, 11, 12-game win streaks here. Major League Baseball, you get everybody, Craig. Will there be a team that wins 13 to 15 games in a row? That's currently trading at 48 cents here. 19 to 20 games, 48%. 16 to 18 games, 50%. You got to be kidding me. Somebody's going to be out there with 18-game win streak, Craig. Give me a no all day, even if it's 98 cents. Come on, we're not winning close to 20 games out here. Stop.
I mean, unless we dial back Moneyball's movie again, maybe that's the way that it would happen. But yeah, I think a couple of teams did win 12, 13 games. Yeah. Ironically, Donnie, the team that always seems to win a lot of games in a row, regardless of what their record, and it may happen again, is the Cardinals. The Cardinals always have these long winning streaks. Have you ever noticed that over the course of the season? Cleveland was the one. I think didn't Cleveland lose 10 in a row and win 10 in a row last year? I think that's the way that they played themselves out. But yeah, I do think that the investment on, let's say, a 12 or 13 game winning streak is fair, but you're right. 18 games would seem to be unrealistic to me.
Now, Craig, being in the business, right? You take a look at the Marlins, you take a look at baseball, small market, big market, ratings are up across the board. Now, we've seen it in the past. You can't ruin a good thing. You say, what do you mean ruin a good thing? The ratings are up. You get no ratings, Craig? Not having a baseball season. Get these guys in a room, get these guys to work things out, but also on Poly Market, a 43% chance right now that there will be a new Major League Baseball CBA by December 1st. Baseball can't let it happen, Craig. Things are good right now. We can't ruin a good thing, or can they?
The only reason I was not on the Marlins broadcast today is because Peacock is paying a boatload of money to stream games this season. They have the NBC game on Sunday night, and they have the Peacock game earlier today. This is actually my 17th straight day of doing at least one broadcast, whether it's SportsGrid or whether it's the Marlins. And in the Marlins, I did 9 in a row. So to answer your question, I still don't think there will be a new CBA, but I am standing firm. I am planting my flag. I am on that island. I don't think we're going to miss any games next season. I think we're going to get a new CBA before February of 2026. December, no. January, no. Spring training, yes. I do think we will have baseball next year. Maybe I'm the one that is the half full guy.
Now, Craig, you know what we can do for you here? And look, I'm not going to play like I'm going to be your agent right now, but if there is a looming strike or whatever, the CBA doesn't get ratified, can we put you on a billboard in Miami-Dade County that will count down that, you have the live I'm not coming down from this billboard until the CBA gets ratified. We might need that because, Craig, I'll tell you right now, don't send me May, June, and July without any baseball next year, without COVID at this point. I can't handle it. I can't.
SportsGrid won't allow me to use that background when I host shows. So no,
come
can't
on.
do it. I'm going to be sitting. I'm going to be sitting right here. This is where I am. Football season's coming. We're 3 months away from talking football again here, Donnie. So no, I will not go on that billboard. I'll be hosting
the
football shows.
Network. There we go. Craig Miss, the ultimate competitor here. You've seen it, you love it. We'll see you next week for another PBT.
We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So they're like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March, so some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note too, DraftKings and